Hi guys, this is Amanda from Hearn Family Homestead. I'm out here in the garden this morning, and this is the second year that I've done the Back to Eden method. The wood chips that I have, I'll show you. They're fairly large, and we got these from the trees when the arborists were trimming the trees under the power lines. And so they were free. We asked him if he would dump the load at the end of our property, and he did. So I was super grateful to have all these wood chips. So I decided to try the Back to Eden method. I do like this garden method because it saves me on water, and we live in town, as you can probably tell. There's traffic going by. But I do like that they keep moisture in the ground. It's a good thick layer of mulch. Till them into the soil, what it does is the chips will actually pull nitrogen out of your soil, and you'll end up not being able to grow anything at all. We know people who have tried that, and it has not worked out well for them. So we won't be doing that. We're just going to leave them on top, and then where you plant, you just scrape away a little bit, plant into the ground, and then put it back. Now I do have some diatomaceous earth spread out. I've got some mushrooms coming up, which I'm not too worried about. But the diatomaceous earth is just to protect these pea plants, and I've got some spinach going and different things that I really don't want to get eaten. So I spread some diatomaceous earth, and I won't do this later in the year. When I'm getting good pollinators in the garden, I don't spread hardly any diatomaceous earth unless I absolutely have to. Last year I did for some squash bugs because we just had a huge squash bug invasion. So let me show you some things that we have coming up besides the peas. So I'm really pushing our last frost date. If there is a freeze on the 10-day forecast, I'll come out and I'll cover some things up. But I did plant just a little early this year. So we've got some radishes coming up in amongst some turnips. We also have radishes here in the beet row. They're a little behind. I did plant those a little later than the turnips. These are Napa Cabbage, which I also spread diatomaceous earth on, and I'll show you why. Something got one of them. And also there's one over here that's just barely holding on. Hopefully it'll make it, but we got the diatomaceous earth on there so that hopefully we won't lose any more. So I've got originally 9 of those on this side and then a few on the other side of this tomato trellis that I have. And this whole section right here is greens. I've got kale and lettuces, all sorts of yummy greens planted in these little ditches between the bark. And what you want to do is just pull the bark back, plant into the dirt, and then I even sprinkle a little dirt on top. Now these arborist wood chips do have some advantages and disadvantages. One advantage is it's got the leaves mixed in with it, so it will break down. A disadvantage is that there's a lot of sticks and larger debris, but as long as it's not in the ground, it should be fine. It won't pull the nitrogen away. We've got peas planted in 2 places in this garden, and they are right under a cattle panel trellis. These are just some old cattle panels that I got for free, and so they're spaced up quite a distance because I do expect these peas to get fairly tall, and then I'm going to plant something else here later that's going to need more of this space between the ground and the trellis. And then on this side, I've got another cattle panel trellis that I will grow tomatoes on, and then beans farther down. And here we've got some Swiss chard that is a holdover from last year. It overwintered under some hoops that I had covered with plastic, and it's getting fairly big, so we'll probably eat on that a little bit and then let it go to seed and see if we can save some of the seeds. But in amongst it, I had originally planned on putting cauliflower here, and you can see they're barely peeking up. I did grow these from seed, but I transplanted them when they were tiny just because they needed to get out, and most of them are doing okay. I did have to sprinkle them as well. We've got a long row of some tiny baby onions, and then we've got some volunteer carrots that came up from last year. I'm definitely going to save seed off of those this year, and we should have plenty of seed because there's several of them that have poked up through the mulch. And these onions are so tiny. They're actually struggling just a little. But I've had onions that have died completely back to the ground and come back. And so I'm hoping that these will do the same. We also have this strawberry bed that we decided to intercrop with some peas. And my hope is that I can keep the peas thinned out enough that the strawberries won't suffer from lack of sunlight. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of an experiment this year. Behind me I have my new garden fence that my husband's building me. It's made out of completely reclaimed materials that we're actually pulling off of our yard fence right now, and we're redoing our yard fence. It's getting a little windy this morning. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garden, and please like and subscribe if you'd like to follow our channel.